welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our RBT Practice Exam series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please subscribe if you aren't already for all of our updates. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Rose's dad always says Rose is strong, and Rose will say Rose is strong. Today, Rose picked up a pillow and said, Rose is strong. What does this resemble? Kind of a challenging question. Not a lot of information given, but that's okay. We're going to attack the question regardless. So, what do we know? We have to focus on what we know, not what we don't know. Well, we know that Rose's dad says Rose is strong, and then Rose says Rose is strong. So, looks like some sort of imitation. Rose is saying Rose is strong in the presence of dad, in the presence of dad saying that phrase. Then Rose picks up a pillow and says, Rose is strong. So Rose engages in the same response, but in the presence of a different stimulus. So immediately we should be thinking about generalization, because when Rose engages in one response in one situation and then takes that response to another situation, it looks like that response is generalizing. So we have to ask ourselves, is this considered response generalization or stimulus generalization? Well, with response generalization, we're looking at several different responses, or at least one extra response in the presence of the same stimulus. In other words, you have one single stimulus and you have multiple responses. In this case, we only have a single response. Rose is strong. And that response is occurring in the presence of multiple stimuli. Therefore, Rose is generalizing across different stimuli. It's happening in the presence of dad, in the presence of dad saying Rose is strong, and in the presence of Rose picking up a pillow. So Rose is generalizing this response across stimuli. It isn't C, maintenance, because it doesn't appear that teaching was involved. And with maintenance, there had to be some form of teaching first in order for the behavior to maintain. And it isn't fading, because we're not fading anything. We're really focused on this response, Rose is strong, and the response is occurring in the presence of many stimuli. Therefore, Rose is generalizing across stimuli, which we consider stimulus generalization. Malin is looking for her phone downstairs. She asks her boyfriend if he has seen it, and he looks at the pillows on the couch, so Malin goes and checks to see if her phone is there. What is the most behavior analytic explanation for why Malin checked the pillows? Again, not a super easy question, but that's okay. We're going to attack the question. And we're not going to jump straight to the answer choices and start trying to figure it out that way. You want to try to figure it out in the question itself. We're looking at Malin's behavior of checking the pillows, and we want the most behavior analytic explanation possible. So what do we know so far? We know Malin is looking for her phone. She asks her boyfriend if he has seen it, and he looks at the pillows. When he looks at the pillows, what does Malin do? She goes to check to see if her phone is there. So the boyfriend looking at the pillows is some sort of motivating operation, some sort of SD, which is evoking the behavior of Malin going check to see if the phone is there. Now, why would that evoke that behavior? Why would Malin go check to see if her phone is there? Simply because the boyfriend looked at the pillows on the couch. A, the behavior has been reinforced in the past when someone looked at the pillows when her phone was lost. Sure. If a behavior is reinforced in the presence of an antecedent, like looking at the pillows, then in the future, it's more likely the behavior will happen again. It's likely that Malin has maybe lost her phone before, and it's likely that someone looked at the pillows, and it's likely that Malin received reinforcement for checking the pillows, which is why when her boyfriend looks at the pillows, Malin goes check and see if her phone is there, because in the past, that signaled that reinforcement is available. Now, what about B? The behavior has been punished in the past when someone looked at the pillows when her phone was lost. Well, if her behavior was punished in the past when she went to check pillows when someone looked at the pillows, then she would not have checked the pillows again. Why? Well, because punishment decreases behavior. So that behavior would not have continued into the future. C, Malin knew her phone was under the pillows. The issue with C is it's not very behavior analytic. When we say Malin knew her phone was under the pillows, we're not describing that in a behavior analytic way. It's much more behavior analytic to say, in the past, the behavior of looking at the pillows has been reinforced when someone looked at the pillows when her phone was lost. So Malin is simply responding based on what's occurred in the past, based on reinforcement in the past for checking pillows after someone looked at those pillows. You, a behavior technician, are working with your client at the client's school. While you are delivering services, the client's teacher starts to ask you specific questions about the client's personal and medical history. What should you do as the behavior technician in this situation? What is this question concerned with? Well, it's concerned with privacy. So you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the tech because the teacher has asked you questions about the client's personal and medical history. It is our job as behavior therapists to protect the privacy of our client, not only for legal reasons, not only for policy reasons, but for respect reasons and dignity reasons. So you're in the situation where a teacher is asking you these questions. What we can't do is assume just because someone is involved with the client that they have access to all the client's information. Information can only be shared once consent is given or if required by law. So in this case, you're the technician. You've been asked this question about this client's personal and medical history. What do you do? How do you respond? A, provide the teacher with these details to promote collaboration. While it probably would promote collaboration, do we know yet if the teacher is allowed access to this information? We don't. So before we can give her any details, we have to ask our supervisors, does the teacher have access to this information or do they not? B, inform the teacher that you will not share any of this information with them due to privacy concerns. Now, this is too far the other way. Maybe the teacher does have access. You're right with B that privacy is an issue, but if the teacher has access, then we absolutely should be sharing these ideas with her. And this is why the code and the task list promote and encourage and require constant communication between technicians and supervisors for these situations. B, check with your supervisor regarding the teacher's access to the client's information. This is your first step. You call your supervisor, you text them, however you get in contact with them, and you explain the teacher wants access to these records. Do they have consent? And then it is your supervisor's job and role to find that out and then communicate back to you what they want you to do. D, call the client's parents and ask if you can share this information. That is not your role as a technician. That should not be your first step. Your first step always go to the supervisor. Unless you know for sure that something is or isn't allowed, you have to ask the supervisor first. Ultimately, the supervisor is responsible for you. For the case, you have to ask them first how they want you to proceed. So, what should you do as the behavior technician in the situation? Well, C, check with your supervisor regarding the teacher's access to the client's information. Terry wants to figure out a way to encourage her son to behave better at school. She reads in a book that she should establish a contingency which will provide a reward on completion. How might Terry establish a reinforcement contingency with her son? All right, so we're looking at a contingency here. And what is a contingency? A contingency is a if then statement, the first then statement. For example, if you do your homework, then you can go outside and play. If you eat your broccoli, then you get dessert. First, we clean the house, then we go to the park. These are contingencies where a response is required in order to gain the consequence. Now, very specifically, this question is asking about a reinforcement contingency because Terry wants to encourage her son to behave at school. And so, how can Terry set up a contingency that will provide a reward on completion, specifically reinforcement? A, tell her son that if he misbehaves in school today, then he will be put into timeout all weekend. Now, this is a contingency, but what kind of contingency? Well, it's a punishment contingency because timeout is a punishment procedure. So by telling the son, if you misbehave, then I'll put you in timeout, she's setting up a punishment contingency, which is not what her goal is. B, tell her son that he should behave in school today after providing her son with his favorite action figure. What's the issue with B? Well, the issue with B is it's reversed. The son already has access to the reward. He gets the action figure, and now he's told to behave. This is more of a bribe. We don't want to give the consequence before the behavior has occurred. So we look at C, tell her son that she will buy him a toy after school if the teacher says he's behaved all day. This is a contingency. If you behave all day, then you get the toy. Notice how in C, the son must engage in the right response before getting the reward, whereas with B, the son gets the reward before even going to school. That's the difference. And then D, a contingency should not be used to encourage a good behavior. Well, of course not. We use contingencies all the time. You should be constantly setting up these contingencies. What you want to avoid are bribes. So, how might Terry establish a reinforcement contingency with her son? Well, C, tell her son that she will buy him a toy after school if the teacher says he behaved all day. If you're ever discussing behavior analytic terms or concepts with the parents of your client, what should you try and avoid? So, as a technician, you typically won't be providing parent training, but you might get permission to, or you might assist, but you should always still try to maintain some sort of rapport with the parent. And so, if they're asking you questions, there's some questions where you can answer about the behavior analytic terms or what you might be doing. However, if you're going to discuss these terms or concepts, what do you want to avoid with our parents or the parents of the client? A, using jargon. Do we want to avoid jargon? We do. Jargon is technical talk. It's using very specific ideas and concepts that really only trained people would know. So you want to avoid jargon. Do you want to try and avoid technical terms? You do. Again, technical terms, jargon, we want to stay away from that. What we want to use is C. We want to use simple language, language everybody can understand, language that will get your message across without confusing people or having to teach them a lot of things they may not know. And so if you're ever discussing terms or concepts, behavior analytic terms or concepts with parents, what you should try and avoid are jargon and overly technical terms. So our answer here is D, both A and B. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.